Where do you start with that offense? I mean, they do everything well. They're scoring 1 million points. Where do you put the starting point?
Well, I think it starts up front. Just like in any game, if you can't stop the run, it's going to be a long day. Their offensive line is probably the best that we've seen, and then they have 2 really good running backs. So we really have to defend the run. And they're explosive, they're powerful, and their offensive line is really good. I mean, they've built it the right way. They've built it from inside out, but it's got to start there with the run. Obviously, they have good wide receivers. They have a really good tight end. And the quarterback is as efficient right now as any quarterback in the NFL. I think they're coaching really well. I think their whole staff does a great job with their scheme, and then what they've done with the quarterback this year and his efficiency, it's been very impressive.
Do you spend much time on worrying about trick plays at all? You know, like the Montgomery throw. I mean, how much time can you actually?
Do I spend a lot of time worrying about trick plays? I watch them. Every week I watch like all the trick plays. I try to watch the trick plays from around the league to see what's going to be copied next. You try to figure out, who likes to run them, when, where. You sprinkle them in practice, but there's a lot more to worry about with this team than just trick plays. So I think it's always something you have to be aware of, and they do a really good job there too.
We talked a lot about the pass rush, but you guys are ranked well from a run defense standpoint. How do you think you guys have held up in that regard this season?
In the run or the pass? We've gotten better. I mean, I think each week we've gotten better against the run, which I give our players a lot of credit for and the coaches as well. I think we're just getting better overall on defense. I think we'll still be more consistent, but our guys are playing faster. They're more physical. We're getting off the ball up front. They're starting to understand the scheme more and the technique more up front. I think our linebacker play has been better. It'd be nice to have Quay back. I mean, I thought Quay, before his injury, was playing really well, and I thought he was just going like this. So hopefully he comes back and he allows us to take an even bigger step forward, because now we also have guys who have played different positions and have gained experience. But I think our run defense is definitely going in the right direction, and it's going to have to this week. I mean, that's going to be the key to this game, and it might be like today, another beautiful day, rainy, cool, a slick field, so we got to be on it in the run game. But I think that's a credit to the guys up front, the backers, and then, from the safeties and the corners, just the physicality, the tackling, and I think our staff's done a nice job there too.
Having Wyatt back, he was playing obviously so well for you early on. Do you think he can get back to that pretty quickly?
Yeah, I sure hope so. I saw it more this week. I give him a lot of credit for fighting back through his injury and playing last week. He probably wasn't 100%, but he fought through it. He played in, obviously played in the game, and when he's 100%, I think he's one of the best at his position in this league. And we need him to play that way this week, and then he can rest up over the bye week and hopefully feel even better. But just the energy, the personality, the explosiveness, not just in the run game, but in the pass game as well. I mean, he's a dynamic player, and I'm very happy that he's back.
You talked a lot about the depth in your secondary. What is your level of concern or level of confidence if Jair and Evan can't go this week?
Well, we've got a lot of competition in the group, period. I mean, if you look right now, in the corner room, we've played a lot of guys, and we'll continue to do so. There's guys that have stepped up in practice, and I thought had a really good week, just like last week, and we'll rotate those players as we see fit. Obviously in the safety room too, we've moved people around. Bull's played nickel, Bull's played safety. Last week, Bull had to play both, which is definitely not easy for a young guy. I mean, the thing with Bull last week, you give him a lot of credit. He's like, I said to Bull last week, I thought he had his best week of practice at the nickel position. And there was a couple times he was disguising and doing things, and I kind of smirked, and I was like, Bull, that's really good. You got me on that one, and I was going to tell you to get back in, and I saw you do it late. So it was so cool because he took such a good step at that position last week. And then what happens? Then he's got to go in and play safety, and he hadn't really practiced at that position. So now for a rookie, that's hard, right? It's like everybody wants to ask and play the rookie here, put this guy here. I mean, it's not always the easiest thing to do. So I give Bull a lot of credit for what we've asked him to do. I think he's a really good player, and I think he's having a really good rookie year. But to have his versatility, I think, is huge.
Cooper made that the pass breakup he had where he fakes the blitz and then runs 40 yards the other way.
Yeah.
He made that look pretty simple. How difficult is that for a linebacker to do?
Probably as difficult as it looked. I wish he didn't sell the blitz as much like he did. I wish he kind of got out of there and ran. But he wanted to make it harder for himself and sell the blitz. So, I mean, it was a great play. I mean, we're not going to ask a guy to sit there, take 3 steps forward and run that far deep and cover the middle, underneath middle part of the field, but he was able to do it. The strain, the finish on the football, the speed. I've said it, he's a dynamic player who's getting better, and he's starting to play more snaps, and he's getting more comfortable, and we're asking him to do more too now. I mean, he's lining up as a linebacker, but we're moving him around a lot on 3rd down, so we are starting to put more on his plate, and the more he shows us he can handle, the more we'll give him. At the same time, we just got to be careful overwhelming him too, because it's tempting, but we got to let him play fast.
He had a bunch of sacks last year at A&M. What was the coverage stuff like that, something you saw on tape and even when he got here early on?
Yeah, it's his speed and athleticism. I mean, he can accelerate. I mean, he can roll. So we ask him to do some things that maybe we wouldn't ask other people to do that we feel confident that he can do them. I mean, that was a little bit drastic. So you're not going to see too much more of that one. That was a good highlight clip for him.
On that play, and then there was a tight end down the seam that he had to go and cover. Is that sort of an answer that teams are having for you mugging up the linebackers, or is that just part of what they were doing offensively? You know?
No, on that particular one, we blitzed a nickel and they threw hot to a guy who was supposed to be replacing that area. That wasn't even Coop who was replacing that area.
On the tight end, what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we blitzed. All right, so you have a nickel out wide, right? So they caught us that we blitzed the nickel, and he quickly threw hot and replaced where the nickel came from, which was a different play than the other one that you were describing.
They're not related to.
No, a different play. I see where you're going because it kind of looks similar, but you know, sometimes those work really well, and sometimes they get you. And they made a nice play. He threw it on his back shoulder, and it was a good completion. It was a nice play.
Jeff, when an offense is in the red zone and they bring in a eligible receiver, they bring in a tackle, what's the challenge for you, the personnel you want to have for that situation, and your guys on the field to understand that they may have to change their assignment?
You know, as long as they know that he's eligible, it's no big deal. They just can't get caught up that he is an offensive lineman. I mean, they need to know he's eligible, and just like anything else down there, their eyes need to be in the right place. So if we're in man coverage and that guy needs to be covered, you better keep your eyes on him in case he does run a route. If we're in zone coverage, you better treat him the same way. So it's just knowing and understanding. That's all.
Guys like either Kenny or Quay or X to shout that out so all your 11 understand what's going on?
Well, they need to report him as eligible, right? So once they do that and we've practiced it, we'll make them aware.
Your pass rush has gone hot and cold this year. On a lot of it was obviously Hurts and Richardson and those guys. How about last week against Jacksonville? Was that good enough, and you need to be better this week against?
Well, I'd like to be better every week. I've consistently said that, right? We need to be better than we were last week, and I said that the week before, regardless of how we played. I know our pass rush has gotten better, and it's gotten a lot of people's attention, and you can see that by the way people are trying to block us. When you combine the pressures that we have, the different looks that we have, and then the players that we have up front and the ability to rush for or send however many that we want, I think they've done a nice job with the pressures and, you know, with the sacks that we've gotten. Our pressure rates are pretty good and our sack rates are pretty good, so I give those guys credit.
Jeff, what's the challenge with this group specifically, though? They've got a really good offensive line, and Matt was talking earlier today about how if you give Goff time and you don't get him off the spot, he can pick you apart. So how do you view this week's pressure challenge?
Just pressure, overall challenge, because overall you're talking about, you know, possibly the best offense in football right now, one of the best teams in football right now, with a really good offensive line, really good backs, a really good quarterback, really good receivers, and a great coach. So are we asking about how we're going to get pressure on Goff? Like, you want to know how we're going to get pressure?
No, I don't want that. How important it is.
It's very important to get pressure on Goff. I mean, you know, but I think we got to be calculated with that. We just can't try to go after him every single play and every single third down. There's going to be times when we pressure him. There's going to be times when we show him pressure and drop out. There's going to be times when we send 4 unconventionally. There's going to be times when we send, you know, 5+, and there's going to be times maybe we drop 8. I mean, I think I think in anything, pressure always isn't just about overwhelming them with numbers. It's about making them see different things, right? It's all of a sudden he thinks 6 are coming, but 3 are coming or 4 are coming. And maybe we speed him up and we force him into a bad throw. Or maybe we drop a guy underneath where he didn't think the guy was going to drop, and now he throws a bad ball. I mean, I think the key for us is to constantly change up the looks and make those guys think, right? And we're going to have to do it all, because then there's really good players that we have to cover, possibly double, or possibly drop extra defenders in zones. It's challenging every week. We play good quarterbacks and we play talented wideouts. This group can run the ball at a high level too.
Carrington Valentine's, a guy who started like half the season here last year, so we know he can play. If he needs to on Sunday, what have you seen from him in practice and when he has gotten into games that makes you think he can handle it this year?
I know he can handle it. I have total confidence in him, and I know you'll start to see more and more of him. I think he's practicing extremely well. I think there's great competition in that room right now, and depending on, who plays, what packages that we decide to go with, what personnel groupings they send on the field. Like last week we saw, again, there's 2 weeks in a row we saw a lot of big people, right? So there's less DBs on the field, but I'm very confident in him. And I'm excited to, as the season progresses, to see what he can do. And I'm confident. He's got great energy. He's competitive. He'll tackle. So I have total confidence in him.
How do you prepare for the angles your guys have to take with a guy like Gibbs? Because, you saw on the 67-yarder, the safety took a bad angle and he's gone. Is there any way in practice you can do that, or is it simply just telling your guys, you got to respect his speed?
Well, you see the tape. I mean, the thing with him is you better have good edges and you better line up well, because how can I explain this to you? If I'm supposed to be lined up outside shade of the guard as a backer because I have a certain gap, but I line up slightly too far inside, he will make you pay and you will have a bad angle and you will have no shot to get him. If I'm the B-gap defender and I need to keep my outside arm free and make sure I hit the B-gap at an outside-in angle and I hit it inside out and they have an angle to block me and he hits an open B-gap, it's not just going to be a 5-yard gain. He's probably going to hit an explosive on you. So it's going to be about alignments, being precise with them, understanding the leverage you should have on the ball carrier, and then setting edges, right? You have to set edges and send the ball back. If this guy gets the perimeter and he doesn't have to stutter his feet, there's a chance he'll be gone. I mean, I played against this guy for 2 years when I was at BC and he was at Georgia Tech. I saw him return the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and it was like, all right, this guy's going to be playing for a long time, right? He's a special, special player, and so is Montgomery. I mean, it's not just like one's got power and one's got speed. They're both really good players. So we need to be on it. We need to get off blocks. We need to tackle well. We need to get multiple hats to the football to get them down. At the same time, we've played really good backs. I think every week it's the same thing. What back are we going to play against this week? And I have a ton of respect for both of these guys. And I think their run scheme's good. I think they're really well coached. I think their O-line coach does a good job, and the coordinator sets it all up really well, and they throw a lot of different things at you in multiple personnel groupings. They can line up in one back, they can line up in two back, they can spread you out. They use receivers as blockers. They'll sift those guys back. The receivers block well, they're physical. They do a nice job.
2 more, please.
You had mentioned Bullard in practice last week disguising one of the coverages that you didn't expect him to do. Is there a balance of the autonomy given the players that ability to make those decisions on their own, and the teaching points of, in this type of situations, it might be best to disguise, or how do you strike that balance with them?
No, that disguise is taught. That's not something that's taught within the coverage. It's just they don't always do it. He did it really well in that play in practice, and I just was using that point to reiterate. Bull did such a good job at one position last week as a rookie, practicing all week, and it can flip like that when someone gets hurt and you have to put him in another position, and you just can't take that for granted that he's still a rookie and he's still learning and he doesn't have 4 or 5 years in our system playing in it. So I was just using that as a point to just compliment him on what he had to do in the game, because initially in the game when he came in, you could see there was some uneasiness, but he finished really well. And I give him a lot of credit for that. I'm not surprised. He's a good player.
How was that moment this morning when Matt announced that Xavier was NFC Defensive Player of the Month?
Say that first part again?
How was that moment this morning in the team meeting when you found out, when Matt announced that Xavier was named NFC Defensive Player of the Month?
It was awesome. I had no idea. So I don't think he had any idea either. So when the picture went up in the team meeting, I mean, that was really cool. It's a credit to him. And I told the defense today in front of the defensive staff, too. I congratulated him just like we're sitting here in front of the whole defense. But I also said, I mean, everybody needs to get credit in this room. You know, that's rush, that's the linebackers, it's coverage, and then it's ultimately him making those plays. But that's when you play good defense together and you have success and you win games, guys are going to get rewarded, and he deserves to be rewarded. He, in my opinion, is the best safety in the NFL, and he's starting to be seen by everybody. And I'm so proud of him, and it doesn't surprise me. The growth that he's had, too, I mean, I can already see it. He's become one of the best leaders on our team. He's one of the best practice players on our team. He's got an unbelievable attitude. He's always studying, and he's young. I don't even think we've seen close to how good this guy's going to be. It's just right now everybody's starting to notice it because he's got huge production. And it's not just the production. It's like I said last week, don't get bored. People aren't throwing the ball in your area. Well, they do, and look what happens. He gets another one. So that's a credit to him. You know, Ryan Downer, DA, you know, Perk, all those guys are doing a great job with him. And I'm really proud of them. And there's so much more to come.